Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we're actually talking about voting, and I think you guys are going to find this very fascinating. And I've got some notes here. A lot of this comes from Evan Halper of the Los Angeles Times, and I think this article is absolutely fascinating. Now, the person we're going to be talking about first is a man named Bradley Tusk. He is a tech entrepreneur and political operative. He successfully ran a New York City mayoral campaign. I believe it was for de Blasio. He also has invested heavily in tech startups, including Uber, where he made a fortune, and some others. And now he is taking the same tactics that he used in these startups and whatnot, and applying it basically to voting. Now, what he is planning on doing, or what he thinks is going to happen, is that mobile voting, meaning voting on your cell phone, your Android, your iPhone, or whatever, is going to spread so fast that Americans will actually have the choice to vote for president and national elections by the year 2028. And if you're doing the math, that is 3 presidential elections away. And now, I think that while this is focusing primarily on America, this is actually a worldwide issue. As technology advances, we are going to see advancements in republics and democracies, those that have open elections, seeing what cell phone usage can be in terms of this, in terms of using it for national elections. I don't care if you're voting for a prime minister or a president or whatever your form of government is, you may be able to vote by cell phone sooner than later. Now, they are working with, or rather Tusk is working with, executives at the Boston-based Votes, that's VOATZ, to really push this forward. And they have persuaded the state of West Virginia and the city of Denver, Colorado, to start kind of looking at voting by phone in the hopes of moving quickly from there. So they are really looking at this, trying to move this forward. Now, their belief is that this will make elections more accessible to more of the voting population, and obviously then drastically increase the population that does vote. In other words, it's going to be very proactive for, democracies and Republican democracies and everything in between. Now, here's the flip side to this, and that would be Marion Schneider. Now, she's the president of Verified Voting. They are a coalition of computer scientists and government transparency advocates, and they are pushing for more secured elections. And Marion says, and I quote, "There are so many things that could go wrong. It is an odd time for this to be gaining momentum." Meaning, I believe the odd time being that we are seeing a rise in malicious hacking, a rise in data mining, a loss continuously in privacy, as we are being data mined on our mobile phones. I don't care if it's Android or iPhone, we're being data mined pretty heavily, not just by the manufacturers, but by multiple app makers as well. On top of this, the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine specifically warn against any kind of experiment such as this, not to mention a multitude of privacy and cybersecurity experts, myself included, that would warn against voting. Now, think about this. We have, I think, in some ways, the ability to secure mobile phones, but in many ways, we don't know where our data goes. I've done a lot of videos and audio on this in terms of we don't know who necessarily is manufacturing these apps. We don't know what they're data mining, and then eventually we figure this out. That is also not to mention that there may possibly be malfeasance in voting by mobile phone. What if, let's say, one of the major political parties decides to buy 5 million phones, and so now the dead don't have to vote, just fake people with fake cell phones can go ahead and vote for the Democrats or the Republicans or, whatever the party is. And so I think there's a lot of things that need to be answered here, but we're moving this way worldwide. And so I don't care if you're in the United States, Canada, Australia, Europe, South America, South Africa, wherever you are, if you have a voting system, I'd be curious to know your thoughts about this, because we have a lot of cybersecurity vulnerability with mobile phones. And imagine if a good portion of the population came under attack from, let's say, a foreign government that could, let's say, access the network or access the mobile phone and therefore access your voting app by getting you to install a malicious app that looks completely legitimate in an app store. There's all these different kinds of things. How do we verify who this is, who the person is that actually owns the phone? So how do they know that I just haven't picked up somebody's phone and voted? Not to mention the fact that this would probably create or require a centralized voter ID system, and then we are giving, let's say, the voter ID, like a centralized voter roll, to a centralized government and then tagging it to a mobile phone. And do we want the government, in terms of privacy, to have that level of access of what we are, what we're doing, what our phone numbers are, et cetera, et cetera? Now, oftentimes, we've obviously given them a lot of this information, but I think there's a balance to be made here. So I'd love to know what you guys think about this. If you're for this, against this, feel free to completely disagree with me as always. But I think it's something that is here to stay, and it's something that we really need to talk about as a society, because I think there's going to be greater calls for this. And I think probably what's going to end up is this is going to be a legal battle against probably privacy advocates and organizations versus the companies that are really trying to push this on government. And so we'll see what happens here, but welcome to the future of democracy. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.